Hello everybody, welcome to Drawingwiffwaffles. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of bad news. When I went to go pick out my file that I had recorded of the Speedpaint process of drawing Supergirl, it was corrupted and there was no video. A little disappointed, and instead of letting the whole picture go to nothing, I thought, why don't I just give you a little bit of like a walkthrough of my process, my drawing process, and how I came to the end result. So if you look at the screen right now, you'll see I have two sketches. This one I drew first, and I just didn't really like the way it was going, so I decided to do another pose because I wanted her to be looking more straight at the camera, you know, like a much more powerful pose, like looking down on the viewer. So I drew this second one, and I did like that one a lot better. So then once I had chosen the pose that I wanted to go with, I then enlarged it. So if I turn off those layers, I enlarged it to the full size of the screen, which my canvas currently is 8.5 by 11. That's just what I like to work with. I don't know, it's just what I like to do. So once I've done that, then I start on my second sketch layer. And if you've ever on watching my channel, you know I swear by my second sketch layer because I think it just helps us, you know, develop it a lot more. And the reason I start small and then grow it is so that I'm not worried about the details. When I start, I'm focusing more on balance and the pose, and then once I get that, that's when I enlarge it and then start working on the detail, which is the second sketch layer. So then it'll look like this after I've done my second sketch layer. And this is when you start really nitpicking and like realizing what shape you want everything to be, and like really detailing the hair. Like this was way too voluminous. I didn't want it to be that crazy. I wanted a little bit more realistic than that. And I think I actually moved her leg down a little bit. If we look up here, that's where her knee used to be, and I moved it down here. Just, you know, just simplifying it, making it look a little bit more natural. Then I actually did shade it a little bit, but that was just for my own fun. That's not necessary. So then once you finish the sketch, that's when you start doing the line art. And so I'll always lower the opacity of my sketch layers so that I can get a better feel of what the line art's going to look like once I turn off the sketch layer. Because I notice if you have the sketch layer on too dark, then when you go to add the lines, your brain's conflicted and confused because it can see so many lines and it's not entirely sure what it's doing. So if you lower the opacity, you can focus a little bit more on making sure the line art is crisp and exactly the way you want it to look. That way, when you turn off the sketch layer, you don't have a big surprise, and you're like, that's not what I thought it was going to look like. So yeah, the lower the opacity of your sketches, the easier it is to see where you're going and how you want it to look in the end. Once you're done with that, you will start your line art, which I actually did on 2 layers. Let me turn them both on here for a second. Oh, so I did the cape as 1 layer, and then the rest of her body is the other layer, but I usually like to do her hair as a separate layer as well, just so I can color over it. But for this drawing, I didn't color the line art for her hair. I think I only did it for the skin. If we zoom in, we can see. Yeah, I did her eyebrows in a separate color, and I did her the lines on her face in a different color, but I left the eyes black just because I think they're a little bit more dynamic that way. And I also colored the line art for the stitching on her top because it's red. And if you didn't know, this is the costume from the new TV show Supergirl, because I watched it and I really wanted to draw her outfit because it looked like a lot of fun to draw. So that was the idea behind this one. So yeah, and she's got like the black tights and everything. So that was what I was going for with this. And once I've done with the line art, that's when I'll go to add the colors. So we can shrink that layer. You can see I don't name all my layers. I actually went through and named a few of them just so that I could talk about it, but for the most part, I leave them as like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, and that is not a healthy work environment. So, well, when it comes to like important things like the highlight layer, I always name it high. I don't know why, but I think it's just helpful because I know I'm going to be going back and forth with that. Whereas with the colors, I'll do them one at a time and I don't usually have to go back. And when you're in Photoshop, if we open up my colors layer, you can see I named a few of them. These I didn't just name now. See, I named the ones that I knew I was going to go back to a lot. And I like that it has a thumbnail, so when you're using just base colors for your separate layers, like each layer is a different color on her outfit. And since I do that, I can see which one's which without even naming them, which is probably why I cheat so much. But yeah, it's good to name a few when you need them, like skin. I always have to change the skin color, so I like to name that one. And so on and so forth. So the first thing I colored was the skin. And coloring the skin first can be a little confusing because you don't really know what color you want it to be in contrast with the rest of the picture. So it's really good to, like color in the whole picture and then add it. But I don't have that layer here, so I'll just show you what I did. I did skin, and then I think above here probably is it's the blush and the lips, which makes the skin look so much more lively. And I've noticed if I color the skin first and like do the blush and the eyes and everything first, then I'm just much more enthusiastic about coloring the rest of it. Because if I don't do the skin and the eyes and the face and making it look fleshy and alive, then I think it's because it looks so dead and like lifeless that like I'm not as enthusiastic about coloring the rest of the picture. So I like to do that first just because it's a lot of fun, and it like leads me into the whole drawing process and I just enjoy it. The next thing that I colored was the eyes. And like I said previously, I like to have the highlight layer separate, and so that's up at the top. It's right here. Actually, I called it hair and extras. So if you see that, that's when it adds the life to the eyeballs, which I actually did. I did that next, but I did do the hair next. So we're going to leave that off until we get to the hair. All right, next I think I colored the blue shirt. And if you look at this, I put a lot of time into trying to make it look, reflective and like it does in the TV show, which is why I'm really bummed that I don't have the video. But if we look, you can see how I shaded this. I used a soft brush, which is this third default brush, and I had the opacity, this selection on. What is that called? I don't know. A tablet pressure controls opacity. Yeah. So that's how I get the colors to be the way I want them. I don't really know what colors I use because when you use opacity, they become a different color when you put them on top of another color. So you can see that I used the soft brush for like the highlighty spots, and then for the this is so technical right now. And then I shaded the underside, and I tried to make it look like her muscles were kind of showing through, and I added a little bit of wrinkles, and that's basically it. And I thought it really helped with the colors. I know the highlight I used much more of a turquoise color, and then for the shading it was like a navy blue. So it was like two different colors. They're still analogous, but I think it's what helped make it look so much more dynamic and like it does in the TV show. And then next, I believe I did her band. Yeah, the gold band. And I was really proud of this too. What I did was I colored it in a bright yellow color, and then I took a brown with, again, the soft brush with the opacity, pressure, sensitivity on, and like I drew little straight lines where I wanted them to be, and then if I thought they were too dark, I would use the Alt button, which if you hit Alt, it turns into the little color picker, and I would pick it. I'm not on the right layer. And then I would just enlarge my brush, and I would keep coloring over it until it was the way I wanted. And always keep your locked layer on. Lock the transparent pixels if you want to be able to do this without coloring on everything else. But yeah, basically what I did was I just, kept coloring it until it was smooth as I wanted. And then I noticed something still wasn't gold about it. And when I looked at pictures of gold, I noticed they also had this like orange that would like not hover, that's not quite the right word. But like, this is the orange color I'm talking about. But there was orange that was up against the brown. And once I added that, it added this transition that just made it look so much more like gold, and it made me really, really happy. And I don't know if when you draw, there's like certain moments when you like have these realizations and they just make you happy. Well, this was one of those. So I have never drawn gold that looked so bright and great like this. It's not quite like that in the movie, but once I don't know, I really liked it. So I'm not getting rid of that. It looks fine. Next, I believe I did the skirt, which is actually this layer. And again, I just shaded it as normal. Again, using like Alt key to color pick and like color on top of it and everything. And just slowly, building upon it to make it look more and more wrinkly, if that's the word. Then next, I did the cape on a separate layer. If you notice, these are both the same color, but I didn't do them all in one layer, which I like to do like one solid color on one layer. But with the cape, I did it separately because they do overlap each other. And I wanted to be able to shade the cape without shading the skirt because I wanted them to be separate objects. So I was able to accomplish that by having them on separate layers. And I'm really stingy about making separate layers. So, if I did it, then there was probably a purpose. So that was the reason. And again, I shaded this the same way using like the gradient tool and like coloring it in a little bit. I'm still on the gold layer, aren't I? If I use like a different color, you can see what I do. When I use the gradient tool, I can like Ooh, that looks nice. Shoot, I might... That blue. That's called reflective light, folks. So if you take like a color of something that's like up against it and you want the light to hit that object and then reflect onto the cape, you can take that color with a gradient and just color on top of it. Ooh, that looks, ooh, I do like that. I do like that a lot. This is why you experiment, folks. I was just going to do it to show you, but yeah, I like to use the gradient tool and then, you know, add that at first and then use my brush with the color picker and just grab different colors and like pull them where I want them. I'm not going to do that now. Next thing that I colored was the boots, which I had a lot of fun with these boots, trying to make them look like that rubbery, leathery plastic that she has in the TV show. And to accomplish that, what I did was I colored it all, I believe, in this color right here. Maybe we can do a layer. We can show this. Let me go back to my default brush. This is, if for the people that ask, like, what brush do I use? This is the brush I use for everything. This one right here. Right here. Look at it. That's what I use for everything. Okay. So I think I started with this color for her legs. And then what I did was I grabbed this bright color. And I didn't have the pressure sensitivity for opacity on, and I didn't use the soft brush for this either. I just would, like, where I wanted the highlights to be, I would just draw little lines like this. And then I think that's when I enlarged the brush, turned on the soft and the pressure, and I, like, put on one side of that like this. And then I also think I went over that and on the side. And then I took this dark color and I left or the opacity pressure on, but I went back to the hard brush and I would draw lines almost on the edge. I don't know how to explain what I did, but this is what I did, guys. If that makes any sense and helps you draw rubbery things. I should have just made it look like a ball. I was trying to do the leg again, but I drew a circle. But basically that's what I did. I'm doing a really bad job of explaining, but moving on to her hair was the next thing I colored, so let's move up to her hair. Let me turn that on, and I really wanted to look like the blonde in the movie, which is a lot more realistic than the blonde I usually draw. So what I did was I colored it in blonde, grabbed a brown color, used my gradient tool, and I added a bunch of gradients. Then I took my pen brush and I colored in little strands of the brown or the blonde depending on where I was drawing it. So if I was drawing over the brown, I would have taken the blonde and drawn that, and if I was drawing over the blonde, I would have taken the brown and I would draw little strands on that as well. But it's still, there was something missing about it, and that's when I added the hair extras layer, which added all these little strands. It just made the hair look so much more loose and lively, and I really like doing that. So that is one thing I did. And then I noticed I'm missing some stuff down here, which is her like a leather underwear and her tights, which are probably, oh, found them. Okay. So then I colored her black tights, which I freaking love those. I don't know why. They just make me happy. And then her little underwear, which I didn't shade because I didn't want like attention being drawn to it because it's not very important compared to the rest of the illustration. So I just left those flat. And next, oh, and the last thing we are missing is the S that goes on her shirt, or the Kryptonian symbol for hope, or the family of L or something. I don't really know. I didn't pay that much attention, but here it is right here. And if I tell you how I did this, what I did was I took the red color, and if I unlock the transparent pixels, you can see I can draw, oop, I have opacity on, that's the problem. If I draw an S and then a shape, it already adds the yellow border. And how to do that is with these effects and layer styles, which if you look down here, you can see them. So if you select a layer that you want to add a layer style to, then you hit this little FX button, and you're going to look for stroke, which apparently is at the bottom. And when you click on that, it brings up this little handy dandy window, and you can set the size for the stroke, which I like to just leave at 3 for the most part, depending on the size of your canvas, of course. And a position outside, blend mode normal, opacity full, and then you select your color, which I wanted it to be the gold color that surrounds the S. And then you hit OK. So now whenever you add more lines, it's going to continue to add a little stroke to it, which I find just so much more simpler than adding a line art to some objects, like laces, like shoelaces. I'll use this trick a lot. I just lost the layer. It's called S. That's handy. So yeah, I like to use that trick for just simple things like shoelaces that I don't feel like drawing line art for. You can add the line art, that does help. It probably does make it look a little bit more crisp, but when it comes to just simple illustrations, I like to just use this trick. If I was gonna maybe get this printed, I might go in and add the line art to the S and then color it in again. But for now, this will do just fine, and it looks fine. I think it looks great. So once I have my S shape and I have my border, I need to shade it. So then I'll lock the transparent pixels and start shading however I want to do it. And the cool thing about this is when you're trying to get the shape perfect and how you want it to look, when you erase it, if you notice this, because the transparent pixels are locked, it's just going to make it white, so it's going to make it this color actually. But that's not important. So if you do have that happening, this is why it's happening. Just unlock the transparent pixels, and now you can erase, and it'll keep the border on the things you want it to be, and it'll just look really cool and awesome. It's just fun to play with layer styles. Definitely play with those and see what you can come up with for those. But I think I'm just about done. I actually have this part recorded, but I didn't end up keeping it. Was drawing this background, which I wasn't totally happy with, but I'll just show it to you. It was just very simple. I just wanted to give her an environment to stand in, and that's what this was. So yeah, here's my finished illustration for Supergirl from the new TV show. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry I don't have a speed process video. You can let me know if you liked having a little bit of a walk through my drawing process with Supergirl. Let me know if you liked it, if you prefer the speed paints, which I kind of do. But I think like the best result would be like a mix of the two, like a walkthrough with the process video kind of thing. I don't know. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and I will see you guys all next week in a brand new video, and hopefully I'll have video. No corrupted videos. Fingers crossed. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all next week. Have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye.